Mr. Chairman, dear doctors, the first thing we do, said Dick the Butcher, is kill all the lawyers. Now, Dick the Butcher was a character in Shakespeare, was not a butcher, but a surgeon. Okay, a surgeon barber, but still he was a surgeon. So contrary to popular belief, Dick's proposal was not to eliminate lawyers because they stand in the way of revolution. The proposal was Shakespeare's praise for the lawyer's role. How lawyers stand in the way of perversions of the rule of law. Now, there are two issues I would like to focus on today. Can they make you do things you don't want to do? And can they forbid you to do things you want to do? So due to the COVID-19 crisis, the medical profession seems to have lost part of its professional autonomy. Doctors are requisitioned to do triage in emergency services or even in the pre-triage tents outside of hospitals. So doctors are forbidden to perform non-urgent elective procedures. Are there legal grounds for this requisitioning of doctors? And secondly, what if requisitioned doctors make mistakes? Are successful claims in that case possible? Next slide is, are there legal grounds to restrict the medical activity? And what if patients are non-treated or undertreated when complying to these restrictions? Now, what are the legal grounds for requisitioning doctors? In 2018, all our governments, all 8, closed a protocol in execution with 2005 international health regulations of WHO. WHO regulation requires all countries to have a national focal point. And so we complied by appointing our Volksgezondheid to become the national focal point and as well as a crisis coordinator. Also, in compliance with WHO, 2 bodies were installed. This is very important. First of all, a scientific risk assessment group with government experts and external experts, and also an executive risk management group with cabinet members and of all our ministers and their lead civil servants. So this risk management group, the RMG, is authorized to make fast decisions to protect citizens for an outbreak or epidemic. But, and that's a bit peculiar, until now, there hasn't been any requisitioning of doctors and decision of the RMA. There is, however, a strange sentence in the RMA decision of March 18, which says, I have to hear it, in addition to the measures, and I translate, it is also important that healthcare providers who also work in a hospital remain available at all times for their support to the provision of hospital care. Now, this sentence is certainly not a requisition measure. It is only a reminder that doctors should not focus too much on their private practice. But that's it, no more, no less. There are 2 more legal possibilities to requisite doctors. First, by hospital regulation. Yes, it's possible, but only if the general rules of the medical or the medical regulation, so het medisch reglement or règlement médical, stipulates that requisition of doctors is possible. And this possibility, in turn, is made enforceable by a referral clause. That's what they call een kettingbeding, een clause de renvoi, in the contract with the doctor. So it's not that simple to force doctors to go and work at triage or pre-triage. The second possibility is a decision of the medical director and based on his instruction right. Now, this instruction right, too, is only enforceable insofar as the contract with the doctor contains an instruction clause. And this clause in the contract is certainly necessary if a requisition of the doctor is at stake. So it's not that easy all that. Question is, what if a requisitioned doctor makes a diagnostic or a therapeutic mistake? All doctors, all Belgian doctors are legally competent to perform whatever medical act. And this, of course, includes emergency services and corona triage. If a doctor makes a mistake, then this behavior will be compared to that of a normal, diligent doctor of the same discipline, placed in the same circumstances, for instance, emergency service. So the benchmark is the care that a diligent doctor of the same specialty would have delivered. However, a big however, when a doctor performs activities of another specialty out of his professional skill zone, for example, a urologist is working on an emergency service, then his behavior is tested against the professional skills that are required for that specific activity. So a doctor's behavior must be compared to the standard skills required for a particular medical act, regardless of the doctor's professional title. So there is a famous case, the Paris Court of Appeal decided in 1988 that an ENT specialist, ear, nose, throat, who performs a gynecological treatment must reach the standard of care of a normal, diligent gynecologist. A urologist who operates a 3-month-old baby and is confronted with a post-operative urosepsis should be compared to that of a diligent and careful pediatrician. Exception, again, is made when treatment is provided out of necessity. That means when urgent action is required and help from an expert physician cannot be obtained immediately and quickly. In that case, the court ordered, can the treatment by a radiologist, for instance, on duty in the emergency service not be measured by the behavior of a competent emergency physician, but by the behavior of a normal and careful pair. In this case, a radiologist who performs a medical permanence at night and is confronted by a patient who is bad. An orthopedist on duty cannot be accused of not immediately subjecting a victim of a road accident to a particular kidney examination, although that examination is obvious to urologists. The first conclusions are therefore that requisitioning of doctors is possible, but that decision, that particular decision, has not yet been taken. Secondly, if a requisited doctor treats a patient outside of his discipline and makes a mistake in doing so, then his behavior will be compared to that of a diligent doctor of the same discipline. If he acted to his best abilities, there is no blame, there's no liability. Until now, we discussed whether government or even the hospital or the medical director can let you do things you don't want to do. And if you do those things, to what extent are you liable when things go wrong? Now we need to see if they can not only let us do things, but also whether they can forbid you to do the things you want to do. In other words, is there a legal ground, somewhere, a legal ground to restrict your medical activity? And what if patients, as a result of that, are not treated or undertreated? On March 18th, the Executive Risk Management Group ordered that all non-urgent consultations, it was cited already by the previous speakers, investigations and interventions had to be cancelled immediately, the same date, 14th of March. That is du jamais vu. It is a massive and nationwide suspension of the therapeutic and diagnostic freedom of doctors. We have to realize this. The law, next slide. The law is quite clear on such restrictions of therapeutic freedom. They are null, all null and void, unless they are done by a formal law, voted in Parliament. Of course, the decision of the Risk Management Group is not a formal law. It was a sort of a circular, a sort of guideline. It is still a governmental decision, but not a formal law voted in Parliament. That is why the decision of March 18th is not legally binding and has at most the power and impact of a practice guideline. Again, no more, no less. The last question we have to ask ourselves is then, what if patients are not treated or undertreated as a result of this governmental guideline? If the government decision has the authority of a guideline, then a doctor is free to deviate. And this relative freedom makes it difficult too. If he deviates from the guideline, he'll have to tell why, he'll have to prove why he deviated. So it is therefore good that the professional and scientific associations are producing more detailed guidelines that provide guidance to their members. Whether you follow the governmental guideline or not, you should always consider, as a private practitioner, the scarcity of resources and the inability to work in optimal conditions. So you will have to take these elements in account when deciding to operate on a patient or not. Is it safe? Can it wait? Am I diligent in this case? This said, by limiting and deviating resources and denying scarce resources to their doctors, hospitals also, not only the doctors, but hospitals also run liability risk, serious risks. In that respect, it is important, it was cited by Dr. Ameye already, it is important to report that a number of insurance companies today offer free corona extensions of coverage in hospitals since this week. What are these extensions? They are extensions for activity outside of specialism and competence, triage, pre-triage, emergency services by other specialisms. Extensions for medical students who do more than they are allowed to do. And extensions even for volunteering doctors and retired doctors. So please check this out in your hospital. The extensions are free, but not automatically acquired. So you have to ask for it. I come to my short conclusions. There exists a nationwide legal ground for requisitioning doctors, but today it's not used yet. On a hospital level, requisitioning of doctors is only possible insofar as it is provided for the internal regulation or in the individual contract with the doctor. If a requisitioned doctor makes a mistake, his action will be compared to what a normal and careful urologist, in this case, under the same circumstances, would have done, even if that action took place in the ER or during triage. Risk Management Group decision of March 18th has no legal basis for restricting therapeutic and diagnostic freedom. It has the mere value of a governmental guideline. So a doctor has to be diligent when applying this governmental guideline. He has to consider whether he will apply the guideline in a specific case or not. And he has to prove why he deviated from it. That's why the complementary guidelines of your professional and scientific associations are that important. I think we all need guidance now. Thank you.